Hello and welcome to my guest today, Nikita Hill. I am so excited to have you on the podcast today.
So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Nikita, would you like to share with our listeners a little bit about your business and the kind of modalities that you practice as a practitioner?
Yeah. So I run a remedial massage clinic over in Perth, WA. We celebrated 11 years last October, and I specialise in remedial massage and structural integration. So yeah, keeping very busy with that.
Absolutely. And so what kind of fascinates you about the body? What lights you up? What gets you really juiced? Tell me a bit about what you get really excited about.
I get really excited about our body's natural ability to heal itself if given the right space and input. So time and time again in the clinic, we're all just working on giving our clients an experience of holding themselves differently under gravity, exploring how a different input makes them feel, how different positions can help them to show up differently in their lives as well. And I love that it's not a cookie cutter solution. Like everyone is so individual and so different as to what comes to the forefront when given adequate space. And yeah, that keeps me fascinated as a practitioner because you never know what's coming.
That's right. And every time someone comes into the treatment room, they're in an entirely different space. And I love how you say how our body responds under gravity. That is such a big concept rather than just what is, how am I meant to be standing or sitting or lying or running or whatever it is, but actually, how is my body performing or functioning in this gravitational world that we experience? And how does my body show up with that?
Yeah. And it's really interesting because some people, when you do this kind of work with them, it stays purely in the physical body. And then others, when you do this work with them, it goes straight into the emotional, spiritual, or mental side of things. So it's really a beautiful practice to come in with open hands to go, what needs to come out will come out. And then, yeah, just trusting that your skills as a practitioner to hold space are there and their skills in their body's intuitive intelligence is there to bring out what they need to be brought out.
So beautiful. So, Nikita, tell us a bit about your walk. You've obviously been doing this for, well, you said 11 years in practice, but quite a few years you've been working with the body. Do you want to share with me a little bit about your journey into through business? Like, what has it been like to be you? And what are some of, I guess, the challenges that you've faced in the last sort of 11 plus years as a practitioner?
Yeah, sure. So I started out studying for 4 years to become a naturopath. And at the end of those 4 years, I went, I really do not resonate with this kind of work. My clients walk out the same way they walked in, bar just a little bit of change through the communication. And so one of my teachers that taught me the Swedish massage or certificate for, right at the very beginning of my naturopathy training, said, "Do you have a natural gifting in this? You should come and do the remedial training." And so I followed that afterwards and absolutely fell in love with bodywork. Like it, to me, it was like this beautiful dance and art form with working with someone else's body that came so naturally and so easily. And I've never looked back since. So after studying the remedial diploma, I went and worked for someone else for 2 years, almost 2 years, and then fell into an opportunity to start my own business. I never had goals to be a business owner, to run my own clinic. And so when this opportunity was presented, I asked for like 6 impossible things to happen before I would consider it. And one by one, everything got ticked off, and I went, okay, looks like I'm opening a clinic. All right. So my entire business journey has kind of just been learning by doing and failing forward. So I'm taking on different marketing things that didn't work and then finding business coaches to help refine what I'm doing so I can learn from the expertise of others. And honestly, just following my curiosity. So what I love about bodywork and working with humans is you never know everything. There is always another avenue to learn. There is always something more to refine in your knowledge and your understanding. And so, yeah, following that, curiosity has never led me astray. But I've also seen that every time I've had to step up in business, whether it's been relocating, I've relocated, this is my 4th time this year, I was relocating, whether it's hiring staff, whether it's outsourcing things like bookwork that you don't want to spend your time doing, or finding the right mentors around you to give you the right input. Like every time I've had to step up in my business, I've had to step up in myself. And as someone who loves self-development, that has just been the absolute icing on the cake of just following that curiosity and keeping developing and learning and growing, and has kept me very satisfied with my role. I feel very blessed that I get to work out my passion as my job and then help inspire others with my.
Yes, so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's such a great journey to go on from being a hands-on practitioner and being really curious. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to interview and have a chat with you, is because of your insatiable curiosity to know why is that working like that, and how does that work, and what's showing up for me. And, I'd love to maybe talk a little bit about, like, what's your experience for yourself? What have you had to journey through yourself in order to be able to stay so open and curious with your clients? Because I think that our ability to do that comes from sitting in our own stuff and being able to sit with our own stuff, sift through it and kind of sort it out. So for you, what's it been like to kind of work, I guess, what's come up for you so that you have the possibility and opportunities to sit with clients in that curious space as well?
So I've had my own health issues throughout my life. I have an autoimmune disease, and having to work on my health and accept my health where it's at when it doesn't meet society standards has been a very interesting journey for me. And because of that, I've had to learn how to hold myself without judgment and how to explore my own vulnerability and limitations without expectation. And because of that, I hold my clients with that same energy. And it's been a little bit of a back and forth as well, because knowing how to hold clients like that has helped me hold myself like that as well. And it wasn't too long ago that about 2 years ago now, that I went through a massive health crisis, where I nearly passed away and have been working through PTSD since then. So that was learning that whole self-care, self-boundaries, and holding yourself with that grace and compassion at a whole new level. Because all of a sudden, what I've always been able to do, so I've always had a beautiful hard work mentality. Like, I can think myself through anything, regardless of what my body does or doesn't want to do. If it needs to get done, I can make a way. And all of a sudden, I was hit with this situation and circumstances where that didn't work for me anymore. And it really challenged my whole identity of who I thought I was. So on the plus side, that has given me such grace and compassion for my clients, because from a surface level, you don't always know what someone else is going through. So to be able to hold someone in grace without expectation, without judgment, and help them express what is wanting to come out of them in that moment is so powerful. Just to meet people where they're at, love them where they're at. You know, if you want, I'm happy to walk with you the next step, if you want. And so every time I've had to walk through my own season of that, you can't help but show up powerfully for your clients, because it's a lived experience now. It's not just a thought that might serve you well. And it's actually really confronting at first to be that vulnerable with people and to be that honest with where you're at and what you're going through and what you can actually commit to. Because when I was in the thick of it, I had to stop to only 2 clients a day, 3 days a week, and I could cope with. And to be able to communicate that with the clients, to this is why my hours are restricted, this is what I'm going through, is scary to put yourself out there like that. But I was met with nothing but love and compassion, and I believe that's because I meet them, my clients, with love and compassion. So it's that really beautiful reciprocal relationship. The more you're vulnerable, the more you allow other people to be vulnerable. And the more you shine your light, the more you allow others to shine their light in your presence. So it served me well.
And so for you, what were, if you're comfortable sharing, like what were some of the challenges you were facing physically in your health?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I went to Bali, and unfortunately I picked up a parasite infection. And it ran absolutely rampant through my system. I wasn't allowed to come home for 6 days. I was on incredible amounts of drugs to get me over it. The drugs then caused burning in my internal organs and damage there as well. And when I came back, because I was so headstrong, I went straight back into work like that didn't even happen. And then 3 months later, I started having panic attacks, full-blown panic attacks where I couldn't work. And then in January, 4 months after, I started getting counselling for PTSD because I didn't acknowledge that my body went through a trauma. And so by the time it had come like 4 months on, that reptilian part of the brain still thought that I was in that room dying. And so it took me another 18 months working very consciously and intentionally to walk through that season. And it was really the dark night of the soul for me. It was very hard. And it just so happened to be at the exact time that I hired staff for the first time. So yeah, it was there was a lot of learning in that, a lot of being honest with where I was at, a lot of letting go of what I thought business was supposed to look like, a lot of letting go of the time frame in which I wanted to heal. And it was an intense time of reconnecting with my intuition, because literally I had to wake up every morning and go, can I have this for breakfast or am I going to throw this up? It was a very intense season of really coming back to listening to my body's own wisdom, and allowing that wisdom to come to the forefront rather than what my conscious brain wanted to do, because the level of healing that I was accessing was the healing of my subconscious mind, and you can't think your way out of that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that journey. I think one of the things as practitioners that we don't, that often isn't acknowledged is when we are in struggle or in the fight or in trauma, experiencing a deeply stressful, challenging, and traumatic event, we still have to show up for our clients, and they're face to face, and it's quite an intimate situation. And I often, again, I don't think many people talk about how important it is to get help when you realize that you're there, and then kind of having to relearn. It's like almost like it sounds like your bucket got tipped upside down. And it's almost like relearning to go, well, which bits go in where? Which will I put that? I don't know if I like that or not. Maybe I'll put it. And it's like to actually be able to speak to someone and who can help you work with your unconscious mind to heal, so that it can realize that you're not stuck in that place. Actually, you're incredibly strong, and actually you've moved on, and actually your body can heal in the most beautiful way. I think that is incredibly courageous of you to firstly go and get help, but secondly, to be able to articulate the process.
I had to write myself a huge blank permission slip. And I'm very fortunate that I was in a position to be able to do that, where whatever money I needed to spend on my health, that was priority over everything else. And I'm a very big believer in finding the right practitioners for the right season. So through that entire journey, I was working with my doctor, I was working with a naturopath, I was working with an acupuncturist, I was getting body work done, I was working with my psychologist, as well as journaling and doing all the things you can do by yourself. So I'm a big believer that when you are recovering from something, it takes a team, it takes a community of people to give the right help at the right time, and learning your own body's want for it. So there were seasons where I'm like, cool, I need an intensive course of acupuncture, and then that season finished. And then I wanted an intensive course of vitamin infusions, and that season finished. And so listening to your body throughout that time has just brought me in awe of how intelligent our body is if we listen like from the ground up instead of trying to control it from the head down. And it's just given me such, especially with my clients now, that kind of open hand that if I think I need to refer them on to someone else, I absolutely will, because I know, one, that's only going to put me in good stead with the client because their health and their best interest is at the forefront. But two, 9 times out of 10, they always come back because you've shown your integrity in the healing journey.
Mm. And so for you, what did you get to come to believe about yourself as you've journeyed through that?
So my biggest thing, I say my vulnerability is my strength. So being open and honest with my staff, to the point that we were having staff meetings, and for a good 9 months there, once it hit 2:30, I would just whitewash. All the colour would drain out of me, and that was it. I'd have to go home and go to sleep. And so being able to be vulnerable in front of the team and have them go, oh, Nikita, your colour's just gone, do you need to go? So they were able to look after me as I was able to lead them in the team. Being vulnerable with clients, one of the first things I did when I had my panic attacks, one of my most successful Instagram and Facebook posts that I've ever had was me going, I've been through the panic attacks. These are the 3 things that I implemented straight away. Ask for help, be kind to yourself, like all those things. It was one of the most responded to messages that I'd ever put out there. The amount of people that commented publicly and the amount of people that contacted me privately to say thank you, I'm going through the same thing. Like, it's so nice to know that someone else understands anxiety and panic attacks and just how debilitating it is. And being able to, my vulnerability out there created a safe space to come back and talk to me about it. And one of the most powerful things when you're going through something like that is to realize you're not alone, and that you can ask for support and be supported. So yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things I've learned over this last 2 years at that whole heart level, is that vulnerability is an absolutely beautiful thing.
Yeah. And it's so, and as you say, like when we are vulnerable, we give others permission to be as well.
Yeah. And like, there's not, the whole like, oh, I'm not the only one going through this. There's not something defective about me. I'm not broken. It's like, no, you're expressing a certain way right now because that's what your nervous system and your subconscious mind is doing to keep you safe. Is working really hard to keep you safe. So we thank it. Now let's see if we can help it, encourage it to explore a different expression.
Yeah.
Real gentle, open hand approach.
Yeah. Nikita, for you, when you find yourself in struggle, what are some creative ways you find out of the chaos?
So one of the main things that I love to do is get back in my body, because I can be a chronic overthinker and that can block any kind of progress. So one of my favourite things, I like to chase a bit of dopamine, put the music on and have a dance party in my kitchen. Take all that low vibe, low energy out of my system, try and get some blood pumping, get the vibrations up and get as soon as my vibration rises, my creativity rises. And so if I want to find a solution for something that's left of center, I will get out of my head. That's usually when the ideas will come. Other than that, I'll go down, sit at the beach and watch a sunset, because that is my absolute all-time favorite thing to do.
Best dance song of all time, according to Nikita. Top three.
Oh, Pharrell Williams' Happy always gets me going. And Geronimo, I can't remember who that's by.
Shepherd,
yes. Like anything that's got that kind of beat, and Calvin Harris, When I Met You in the Summer, like, I'm not sure if it's Calvin Harris now, but any kind of dance beat, anything that's going to lift you. And, when I start my dance party, I don't want to have a dance party. So I might start just with like moving my hands, moving my head. And by the time you're 30 seconds into a song, you've got like whole body shaking, doing some twerking, doing whatever feels good in the moment, because no one's watching.
it changes music changes our state, and it changes the landscape. I know sometimes when my kids were younger, if we were kind of getting a bit intense, I would just put some tunes on. I'd start dancing. I'd notice my energy would relax, then their energy would relax. And even if part of it was because they were laughing at their mum being stupid, it changed. It changed the energy, and it actually changed the environment and it kind of pattern interrupt that was going on at the time. And you're right. Sometimes we get so stuck in our heads that we forget that actually I do have a physical body. And when I am in my physical body, I tend to be a lot more like, I'm just more centered, more open to creative ideas. I can think differently, and I can be differently, and I can feel differently. And it's okay to start with the 2-step clap shuffle, I don't want to dance, everyone else does up dancing, and dancing's not my thing. I think it's really important to just acknowledge where you're at, and also have the courage to just start moving anyway.
Yes.
Because if you've got a body, you can dance.
And music is so healing. Like the amount of times that I have not been able to articulate what I'm feeling or what I'm wanting to express, but you put, Spotify on shuffle, and this song comes on, it just hits you in the heart. You have a big cry, you move on, or you have a big dance, or you throw a plate and smash it, whatever you need to do. It's just so powerful to use music in that way.
Yeah. And so, Nikita, are there some other challenges that you've experienced outside of your health challenges? What are some other business challenges you might have experienced in the last 11 years?
Oh, so many. I think if you run a business, every day is an act of faith that you can get through the day and on to the next. But most recently, as in like from the middle of September this year, it's 2021, my current place where I was running my clinic, we went on to renew our lease for another year. And then 48 hours after we had signed the contract, my landlord came back and went, "Oh, I was talking to my financial advisor, I'm not charging you enough. The new rate is now this," which was almost double. And I went and got legal advice, and they said, "No, you've got to sign a contract." So I went back and said, "I'd like to execute the terms, the conditions of my signed lease." And then my lease was promptly terminated with 3 months notice. So yeah, in a very fast way, I had to find a new premise to run my business from. So that has been a real big challenge. I now have secured a new premise, and it is more amazing than I could ever think of. And it's a lot bigger than I thought I needed, but I'm so excited about the growth and possibility that is going to come from it. So yeah, when you're running a business, sometimes the biggest trauma can come from external circumstances changing that you have no control over. But the beauty in that, for me, I always think that life happens for us, not to us. And having journeyed with some clients a long time, like even they were mirroring back to me that every time you've had to move, Nikita, you've been put in a better position and you've experienced exponential growth. So to have my clients mirror that back was beautiful, to go, cool, they've actually embodied one of my beliefs, that you get positioned for growth. And if this door is shutting, it's because another door is about to open that is going to blow your mind. But the challenge in that is every time an opportunity like that comes along, it's almost, for me personally, where I've had to grieve and die the old version of myself and grow into the new version of me that can hold that new expansion. So yeah, it's fun.
And look, again, being such a personal practitioner, when we are face to face with our clients, when you're like, my four walls are safe. They're safe for you. They're safe for me. And then we have disagreement about how safe this place actually is. It can be very challenging to step back into the treatment room and go, okay, fine. You know what? I'm just gonna show up anyway. This is what we're gonna do. How I'm gonna handle it. And be quite centered, except when you then need to get legal advice and figure out, where am I going and what am I going to do? Again, what are some things you hold on to for you when you're faced with a challenge like that?
One of the first things I do is I'm very clear about what hat I'm wearing when. So when I'm in the treatment room with a client, I have my therapist hat on, and that space is their space. All of my stuff stays at the door. They don't get involved in the drama and the back end of it until I'm at a place where I can go, this is what's happened and this is the solution. So, for example, I didn't tell my clients what was happening until I had signed the lease with new place. And then I've gone, amazing, I get to build my dream clinic, guys, it's going to be here. Unfortunately, this happened, but oh my gosh, look what we're going to be able to do over here, come with me. And so, yeah, being very clear on your hats so that you have those boundaries for your energy as well. And call in support. So I didn't know my legal grounds. I had to call up the WA Small Business Association and go, can you help me? Like, I've not experienced this in my 11 years of running a business. What do I do? What am I supposed to do? Is she allowed to do this? Like, I don't know what's going on. And definitely taking it one day at a time. Like, it wasn't as much as I wanted. It was not an issue that I was going to be able to solve within 24 hours. And even now, I've got the signed lease. There's still some steps I have to take before we can open, before I can fit it out, before I can grow it into the vision that I have for it. And even in that process, I know the vision I have is going to develop as I hold that space. So giving yourself permission to have one day at a time, giving yourself permission when you need to have a pity party, because sometimes things that happen to you absolutely suck, and you're allowed to sit with that and go, this isn't fair. Like, oh my goodness, if I could have a moment of anger, I would. Like, feel all the full breath of all your emotions, because they're valid and they're allowed to be felt. And if we ignore them, then they'll come up in maybe other unproductive ways, like passive aggression. Yeah, definitely give yourself grace when something is happening beyond your circumstance, and just know that time figures it all out. And what you think is the end of the world right here, right now, in a year's time, you're going to know that was you being repositioned for something even better. And just trust that you've gotten yourself through every single one of your worst days so far. You haven't given up. You haven't failed. You're still going one foot after the other. So trust in your ability to be able to keep going in the rate that is healthy and productive for you.
Nikita, thank you so much for your time. I think that is such wise words, that we are going to face challenges. we're all going to face stuff in our lives and in our business. And honestly, if we're not facing challenges, we're probably engineering smallness, to be honest. Like if you're going to have a great impact in this world, you're going to have lots of challenges. What I think is so courageous about your story is how you lean into that and do what's required as you journey. And, I think many times over, you're not talking about, well, this is just how I deal with life and it's just easy for me because I just show. It's like, no, you feel all the feels. You feel that, ugh, when you don't want to dance, and you feel the, oh, well, why should I even have to contact a lawyer? And this is not my fault. I signed the lease 48 hours ago. What is the deal? And then also being able to sit in that space, sit in the messy, and then pivot towards, so what is it that I want? What am I prepared to do? What am I prepared to give up? What am I prepared to give myself? And I think that leads to such an incredible impact. And I know that as you take on this lease and you fit it out and start working with more practitioners and kind of continue to achieve the dreams and plans and purposes that you have set out for yourself throughout the next few years, I know that this is going to be a really exciting space to watch.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited too.